next two techniques I teach are push defenses. So we've started with grabs. And again, I use the categories of attack to structure most of our instruction. You can do this a lot of different ways. We could spend months working on grabs, and we will. I mean, that's the thing. By the end of their training, we will have spent years working on everything. End of their training. I haven't stopped training. So, I mean, end of your training is a stupid thing. By the time they reach black belt, they will have been doing this for about 5 years. They'll have a pretty good idea what stand-up street fighting is. So, we've done grabs. Now we're getting into pushes. And again, this is their first foray into pushes. So, the first couple of pushes we do are real basic pushes. The first one is just a high chest-to-chest sort of intimidation style push. And the second one is a low body push. Okay? So the first one is called bracing wedge. This is a technique that I added, but this is a drill I did so much as a student that I used so much as an instructor. All I did was, give it a name on the wall. Like, I didn't create this in any way. And all it is you're going to push each other back and forth. And he pushes you, and you're just learning to base. So we start with light pushes to just kind of get the feel of like how you're getting pushed and how your body feels, right? And as far as we're going to go in this first technique is just kind of like a hard, like kind of like macho, like, like that, kind of like chest to chest, which is probably not the first push, right? There's probably been like a series of escalating pushes. And we're going to get to the biggest escalating push and do our technique. And then the next technique, it's like a combat push. So bracing wedge is this high escalating push, and all it is it's hard enough that it pushes you off your base. So step 1 is step into a base. Step 2 is get your hands up, and step 3 is move back into your opponent's space. Now remember, we practiced invading his space and penetrating through his space, so this is not a new concept. But the whole idea here is, once it gets to that point, the whole reason that happens is because it's a rangefinder, right? I mean, he didn't come up and wasn't like, hey man, I like linguine. Oh no, I like fettuccine. What? And like, now we're pushing each other? No, this is like, we're both drunk, we're in a bar, there are women, the lights are dark, the music is pumping, and he's like, you did X, Y, Z, and I'm like, make it happen, right? And now we're like, boom, boom, boom. And what's that? That's dueling, okay? That's on me. And that's the self-defense conversation we'll have here. It takes 2 to push like that, right? That's a ping pong game, right? That means I'm playing 2. And that is really where the self-defense happens. If I'm in this, self-defense is like, whoa, what's happening in my life? Something's going wrong. I need to escape. Like, you need to build an escape hatch in your brain to get you out of situations like that. But you didn't, right? Because you're only 2 weeks into learning karate. You haven't built that escape hatch yet. So you find yourself in this situation. And the whole point is he pushes you off your base. So rebase, get your hands up, and launch, right? And at first, it's just a launch in with your fighting stance, right? And we're going to have the whole neutral bow conversation. And really, that's the other half of this. The first half is the rebase, like, it's the self-defense thing. It's the don't go back over your heels and end up dead thing. Don't go down a flight of stairs. Like, if you're going to get pushed off your base, you're getting pushed into a base, right? And that's how you need to think. Is like, if my opponent forces me to move, he can only move me to a better position. And you have to constantly have that mindset, because otherwise you're going to get moved to a negative position, and that's not where you want to be. So he pushes me, I rebase, hands come up, because that's what we do. Like, I'm not going to, that's not self-defense, right? So the hands come up, and then I'm moving back in. And at first, it's like the combat aspect of like knee checks, hard knee checks. We just did this position check, so we're going to use that to attack. It's, launching in with the fists, right? It's lockout strikes. But it's most basic. It's just step in with a neutral bow. Push, drag, step, drag, step, that whole conversation. But again, you have to base, your hands come up, and you're right back in. And we'll, again, line drills, shield drills on the body, like push, hit, push each other back and forth, doing all those physical activities. So you do all that, and now how to use a neutral bow. That's really what that technique is. It's you kind of did a little bit of neutral bow work before, but we were kind of also teaching you, like, here's how your knees work. So now we're like, build a neutral bow. And we're going to have the height, width, depth conversation, and we're going to talk about the neutral bow, right? So you move back in, boom, you crush your opponent, and there's that conversation too. Like, look how, if I have a good fighting stance, you cannot hurt me and I can destroy you. And we'll drill it. I'll be like, throw a strike, right? If I've got a good wedge stance and a strong base and good footwork, you're not going to land a strike. I don't even have to move much. And anytime I want to, I can just run you down, right? So that's the fighting stance you want to have. And this is step one, day one, right? Day in the first half dozen. So we get pushed. We push back in, bracing wedge. The next one is the old alternating fists, right? Alternating maces, whatever. Provoking thunder, some people call it. Push comes in low, half downward block, and then it's just lefts and rights, right? This is just, it's jab cross, it's chain punching, it's I like to use the phrase beat the drum, right? Just boom, 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 right? It's a bunch of different things, right? And that's like, okay, we've had this conversation, we've had like the single strike conversation, we've had the arms and legs conversation, and now we're doing this, and at some point we'll do something similar. So push comes in. Now again, the last push was the last escalating push. This is the first combat push. This is like, boom, it's not like we've gotten too touchy now. This is like, I'm attacking you, right? And so the push comes in, and again, like, I teach it as a push. Later on, we're going to talk about what if it's a grab? What if it's not a push? What if it's a purse snatching? What if, there's so many times you can end up in this position when you're checking and trapping on the inside. It's you control the upper zone, right? How did you get there? With beginners, I teach them that he put himself there, right? At a later point, you put him there, and at a later point, you just see that you're there and you do the appropriate thing, right? I guess at a later point, you don't see it at all. So, hands are there, control, defend, whatever. I do again, we just did a hard block, we're going to do another hard block. Like, guess what? We're going to do some hard blocks at this level. And that's a real basic progression, right? So, hands come in, hit the arms, and we'll talk a little bit about like frictional checking and that sort of thing. But I mean, we're going to cut him off the wrists. So he comes in, boom, and there's a million different ways to generate force, right? Check, diagonal punch, rooftop punch, whatever, to the solar plexus. Check the arms again, back knuckle to the temple, okay? And we're going to do the old back knuckle strike drill, right? And we're going to do like a couple of different versions. Like, there's a million different ways to do this, right, with a partner. The ones I was taught were first it was just the checking of the arms, then it was checking out of the air, then we started adding in the other strikes, and then from there it was just kind of like, look what I can do. Like, those are kind of the ones that are sort of codified, and after that it's just hand fighting. So, welcome to step one, right? We're going to work this checking aspect, and we're going to work on controlling the arms, and people are going to complain that they're getting burns on their arms, and that's, again, welcome to karate. Like, some of this is them learning for the first time that sometimes training is uncomfortable, or, like a challenge. Like, we're going to burn them a little bit. That's what you're doing, But again, like, what's the challenge here? That someone is touching you for an extended period of time, right? We haven't gotten to, like, really getting touched. So, the arms come in, block, control. Again, this check, this block, this block. Like, this is what we're doing at this level, right? Block, check. Strike, again, we're trying to cave the chest. And we'll have the conversation about we don't want to knock them out of the range. We don't want to hit them up high and knock them back. We want to hit them low and cave them in. So we're going to block, boom, strike to the body, check, and just kind of wind and unwind, wind and unwind. And we'll have this conversation. about the transitions. And again, at some point we're going to do stance set, and they're going to learn all of these transitions and all these stances. And what does it boil down to is them doing this for like 5 years, right? It's just like learn how to use your hips and your knees, you know, and how to generate force. And this is, you know, not even the beginning of that, but a continuation of that. So, and then up high, it's just keep their arms down and beat them till they stop. Like, the technique ends here, right? But that doesn't mean, I mean, the drill, when we do the drill, we'll do it with back knuckles, we'll do it with straights, we'll do it all kinds of different ways, and we'll do that forever. So if I was in a fight, the technique doesn't have to end there. I mean, I could just continue to chase this guy down, and that's what we're going to do. Like, that's the next drill. Is, okay, he pushes you, and just hit him till, you know, you back him beyond a certain line, or hit him till he stops. What's the other guy doing? He's learning pushing and covering and staying on his feet while somebody's hitting him. Like, every one of these drills has multiple sides, right? So it's not just that I'm learning this. My opponent is learning how to generate force and cover and defend, and, you know, he's learning timing and distance and angles, and the training's interactive. You don't just do it in the air, right? You do it on the body. It's music that's meant for the instrument. So, comes in, boom, and now we've done a couple of techniques. We've done different, you know, levels of intensity with that push. We've done just sort of checking and moving and controlling space, and that's going to lead pretty quickly into like clinch drills and, you know, sort of stand-up wrestling and that kind of thing. But for now, it's just kind of out and in, interacting with the hands. But then this one, like, you know, this is more like we're moving around. And that's going to lead us into the next thing. So now they've kind of grabbed us at a couple of ranges, they've thrown some pushes on us, and here it comes. And that's why, you know, when I teach this next technique as a step-through punch, I'm talking, of course, about delayed sword. When I teach that as a step-through punch, again, look at the progression I've taught so far. Grabs, 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 you know, pushes, pushes, and here it comes, right? So I'm painting a picture of a fight scenario, and at some point we're going to drill that whole fight scenario. So yeah, we're going to teach them like this sort of stuff, but the picture I'm painting isn't like we stepped into a ring together and we both weighed in and we bowed to each other and came out and did a high five and then we're like fighting stance. The picture I'm painting is like a dude grabs you out of the dark, shoves you, and comes in with a punch, and you got to be like, whoa, and control and fight. And that's a whole different thing, right? So we're going to get to the next technique next, but that should give you some idea of why I'm teaching these techniques in this order and what I'm trying to accomplish. So.